I did the JB Hunt internship, and then I did that, and then the next year over the summer I did the Walmart internship, and that's when I really learned about retail, and that's when I started, finding my passion for retail.
Mm-hmm.
So I love skateboarding, and
very nice.
So that was kind of cool to be working on that business. So like my first unofficial buying job was I was a skateboard graphic buyer.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
All right. Another edition of the Matt Woolley Podcast. Today is my good friend Adam McFain joining us.
Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you, Adam. And when I say we're, I don't know why, because it's just me.
You and all your
I am glad. Yes. Oh gosh. See, this is perfect, but we're going to keep that in.
No bloopers.
Known Adam for a few years now. Yeah.
Three or four. Yeah.
Three or four. So who is Adam McFain? Well, as always, Adam, we go through the list here on the Matt Woolley Podcast.
All right.
So, going way back, Adam was a freight handler at Lowe's.
Oh, yeah. Back in college.
He was also an operations office specialist.
Fancy name.
It's pretty legit.
Those were internships.
You were. Well, we'll get into that. You hold your horses, Mister.
I'm sorry.
Adam was also a student athlete at the University of Arkansas. We shall get into that momentarily as well. You've had several jobs at Walmart, replenishment intern, merchant talent program, merchandise specialist in toys, associate buyer in toys, and merchant in patio and garden. And you're currently the co-founder of Spark Strategy based in Northwest Arkansas. Did I miss anything?
No, everything's perfect.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So let's go back. Adam, where are you from?
Where am I from? Grew up until fourth grade in New Orleans.
Nolans,
yeah.
All right.
So don't remember fourth grade. Then I moved. So I claim Arkansas. I was from Greenwood, Arkansas.
Do you at least remember the cuisine?
Oh yeah, I've been back a few times and love Cajun food.
Awesome.
So, but moved to Greenwood, Arkansas, right outside of Fort Smith, in the fourth grade, and spent my high school there. And then went to the U of A for college.
Let's slow down for a minute. It's okay. No, it's all right. It's all right. So Greenwood. So that's about an hour and 20 minutes from here. Or something
About hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Okay. Well, I know at one time we had some Bobby who worked for us at Design Steins. He actually commuted all the way from Greenwood every day.
Oh my gosh,
yes.
That's a commute.
It's like dude,
a lot of highway miles.
You're working like you're in New York. But anyways, he worked for us, and I've visited Greenwood a few times. Great area, kind of a rural area, right?
Yeah. Small town, not like 9,000-10,000 people.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay, so. What was life like for Adam in Greenwood?
The one thing I miss about back home is I could drive, 2 minutes to work, 2 minutes to school, 2 minutes home.
Mm-hmm.
No traffic. Life was good.
Done and done.
Now the Bentonville area it feels like a big city to me, but it's probably not bad compared to what most people are used to.
I was the same way. Back when I was younger, I'm from a little rural area, 20 minutes south of Pine Bluff, and what's really funny is I used to think traffic was bad, or if it was, and I go down there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Heavy traffic is maybe there's 4 people in front of you.
Right. Yeah, the traffic here, it's not terrible, but I'm learning to be more productive on the road.
Yeah,
making the phone calls you got to make, and
100%.
Talking to people, so.
Where do you live?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm off of Airport Road.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yep. So that can be a commute in the right time frame. Yeah.
Airport Boulevard.
Yeah,
And I just moved there about a year ago from off of 14th Street, which that one's another nightmare. So
Yes. Yeah, our infrastructure, I love Northwest Arkansas, but Arkansas as a whole, the infrastructure is just not everything we want it to be sometimes.
we're just growing too fast.
Yeah, that's it. These are good problems.
Good problems.
Good problems.
Good problems.
I just don't want it to turn into one of these days where we're in Dallas traffic.
Right.
But I feel like it's getting there. Anyways.
Yeah.
High school.
Greenwood was great. Small town, football city.
Right. So, what was high school Adam? What was a normal routine for high school Adam?
High school Adam.
So, just quick before we get off into this, we're going to talk about it in a second. Some of you are going to know Adam's name, some are not. But Adam is a former kicker for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
That is correct.
And so, trying to get into the history of what built into that.
Yeah.
So, did you always like football?
No, my mom wouldn't even let me play football
Until when?
until 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
Took a lot of begging. Yeah.
Sweet Mother Mary. So
I was a soccer guy at heart. I played soccer since I was
Oh, gotcha.
super young. Since I was 4 years old.
Okay.
4 years old.
Okay, so did that soccer play into obviously what you did on the?
Mm-hmm.
So how did that go about? So here's the thing. I don't know squat about squat. I'm the bare minimal on any type. I'm not what you call an athletic guy. I do love athletics.
Yeah.
But I'm clumsy. I'm a musician. At heart, and but when did it become apparent that you were a killer kicker?
Probably not till middle of high school. I mean, junior high.
So you started out 8th grade.
Started out in 8th grade.
Did you know what you were doing?
No. My first kick ever, I kicked it like a soccer ball, like a PK, and I hit the center in the dead square in the back of the head. So I remember
Making
that
friends.
at practice. They're like, who wants to kick? Who can kick? And I went out there and first kick ever, nailed him in the back of the head. Never forget that.
So was it something that you just organically fell into, or is it something you just strive to do? How did that happen?
It's actually a funny story. I mean, I was a soccer guy through and through. 9th grade, playing on the varsity team. Mm-hmm. My head coach, Coach Young at the time, he was the wide receiver and special teams coach at Greenwood for the football team. Mm-hmm. And so, I wanted to put all my focus into soccer. I was like, I'm a player on the field as a young guy. I wasn't getting a lot of playing time in football. So so going into high school, I wanted to quit football. I didn't even, I was like, I want to focus all my time on soccer. Coach Young sat me down, talked to me and my parents, and said, it's only going to benefit my soccer career, my soccer, part of that with the weight training and the strength training and all of that good stuff. So I stuck with it, but I kind of told him, I'll play football only if I can kick, because that's what I like doing. Mm-hmm. And at the time in junior high, you couldn't play just kicker. You had to play another position. And so I did that I was under Austin Hartness at Greenwood, who ended up kicking for Arkansas Tech. So I learned a lot from him. That I would say that's when things started to take off, and I started to get the hang of things. Went to a camp or two, and then it's like, okay, get the fundamentals down. Mm-hmm. And people compare, kicking footballs a lot to golf because it's the same motion, whether you're kicking a PAT or you're kicking a 55-yard field goal. It's the same kick.
Mm-hmm. How's your golf game compared to your kicking?
We've been trying to golf together for 2 years now. Can't get out there.
It's a good problem.
The golf game has gotten a lot better over the past, since COVID. COVID's when I really started taking it a little more serious, because that's kind of all you could do here was go out to the golf course. So a couple of my friends and people I work with now, Reed, Phil, we'd go out to the golf course during COVID, and we really kind of just picked it up then. So I'm a lot better now than I was then, but I'm not anything to write home about.
Me neither. Okay, so let's go back still. So, all right, you got an encouraging coach, sounds like. Says, this is where we're going to go. This is what we're going to do. Obviously, you spent some time on it.
I did, a lot of time. That was the beauty of being a kicker, in high school and in college. you can't. It's like a pitcher in baseball. You can't kick your leg out. You can't kick all day. Like, so you do a lot of stretching, a lot of recovery, a lot of practice, a lot of film, watching a lot of tape, and a lot of fun things too, like ping pong and all that other stuff, because the rest of the team's playing the whole time. They're at practice the whole time. And so
You've got one job.
one job, and you've got to perfect that craft. And so, yeah, a lot of practice, a lot of hours put in.
So when did you know that? I mean, you were U of A bound. How did that come about? Did you have other people solicit you, or was it just a thing?
A few
How'd you know
smaller
that?
school visits, but I actually came to the U of A for school. Like I didn't come to the U of A for football. And I had a girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife. So she was at the U of A.
Oh, so you guys go back to high school?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's cool. How long y'all been together?
15 years.
Sweet mother. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
long time.
Yeah,
long
that's
time.
awesome.
She's the best, though.
That's awesome.
Couldn't do anything I do today without her.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, so came up here to U of A with her. She was already there, and then decided I was going to try to walk on. Went to tryouts kind of the first week of school. John L. Smith was the head coach at the time, and he was a special teams coach the year before that. He knew of me, but he didn't. I didn't have an offer or anything, and walked on and performed, made the cut, and stayed there for 5 seasons.
That's awesome.
Got to play two out of those 5 seasons. Learned a lot from the guys, Zach Hawker and John Hinton and some of the guys that started before me. Learned a lot from those guys and just kept perfecting the craft. A lot of hours.
Did you get any kind of like scholarship incentives with that or anything like that? Or is it just
you got the perks of free gear and free food, but no, my parents. Thank you, parents, for they put me through school. My dad at one point was working 2 jobs, so
you folks hardworking people now.
they are. That's where I get it from.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So what did your folks do?
So my dad's done a lot of different jobs. He was a general manager of a siding and windows company. My mom's in HR at Mercy. So
The department everybody loves to hate.
absolutely.
Well, I say that because that's what my wife does. She's in human resources.
Nice. Yeah, no, my mom's very detail oriented,
Oh, yeah.
so it's a great fit for her.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so what's your big takeaway from University of Arkansas? Your studies versus the Razorbacks. Any favorite things that come to mind?
I think being a student athlete, and this is to all the student athletes out there, it's not easy. It's really 2 jobs, right? You're going to school, you got to do your studies, but then you're going to practice, you're going to training, weightlifting. Every day was a full day. It was 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., 9 p.m.
So you're used to the grind.
Oh yeah, used to the ground. And even in high school, I was doing that. I had school, then I'd have football weightlifting in 7th period. Right after that, would have football practice or soccer practice if it was the other season, and then would go from there to work. And I worked at a barbecue restaurant.
Restaurant?
It was called I'm a Jerk Barbecue. It's not there anymore, but
That's funny.
yeah. So worked at a barbecue restaurant, and so I would work 3-4 days of the week for like 3 hours, 3.5 hours after
What did you do
practice.
at the restaurant?
Everything. It was a small town.
Whatever they needed.
Yeah, pretty much everything on the backside. So dishes is where I started. Then I was I helped cook, obviously clean, prep.
Did this translate into a better barbecuing experience in your later years? Did you pull anything from this? I'm serious. Well, here's the thing. The reason why I asked that question, because I've done all kinds of jobs. I worked as a painter's assistant, helping tape and clean cars, and then I did. I've done a lot of farm type work with either produce or chickens all throughout my younger, because that's all that was around was farms, and then the thing that helped me out the most was And I think people need to talk about this more often. But those starting jobs, what it can give to you, they help. Well, I mean, I was a waiter for 2.5 years.
Okay.
So. Yeah, I realized
That's where you get your personality and customer service.
I did. Well, that's part of it. It is part of it. I think people have what they have. But certain jobs open that valve.
Yep.
And there's 3 things that people you don't get in front of, and it's either your money, your family, or your food. That's 3. And when you're dealing in the restaurant business, you're dealing with all 3 most of the time.
All 3 of them.
And so, waiters have to be on their toes.
Yep.
So it gave me a lot of people skills and a lot of different personalities dealing with. And so literally, because of that job, I can talk to just about anybody.
Yeah.
And
no, they put me in the back. They let the pretty ladies up front handle the customer service, and I was in the back.
Well, but I asked that because I had friends that have worked in barbecue that ended up. Or different restaurant situations end up being chefs, or picking up little skills to help their barbecue game. I think you take something away from. Yeah. You take a wisdom nugget away from anything.
Yep.
So
a little bit of piece of everything builds your story and who you are.
That's right. So did it help your barbecue game at all? Helping to cook?
A little bit. It taught me a little bit. I don't barbecue a whole lot now, so I can't really comment on that.
Just let that skill go. You just let it
got
go.
Other skills I got to work on. You can't be great at everything.
You can't do it all. Okay. So, is there a certain Razorback moment that sticks out to you that really just?
Oh man, there's tons.
Well, then let's hear about
it. Name tons.
You're in Razorback country, and absolutely. I've been told by so real quickly, shout out to Spark Strategy. Adam is partners with previous guest Reed Thornton. You guys have worked together for years and decided to start Spark together.
We did.
So I've been told by Reed that you guys have been out and about, and being in Razorback country, people noticed you. They came to say, hey, I remember you.
Did he tell you the full story?
No, let's hear it. So let's hear the stories.
We were just there have been people that have noticed me. I wasn't, super popular or anything, but we were at a concert.
Razorback dudes know the team. Yep. I know guys that know that can tell you just about every team, both in football and basketball, for the past 40 years.
That's incredible.
And remember their faces too.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
The fans in the state of Arkansas are so loyal and passionate. It's hard to beat. But yeah, this story, we were at a concert at George's, and everyone's had a few drinks.
What's the show?
Having a good time. Don't quote me. I don't remember.
Oh, no worries.
But we were having a good time. We were having a good time. They have all these concerts down there. We go often. They were down there, and somebody recognized me, and they asked me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm Adam." Blah blah. They're like, "Oh my God!" And they're like, "We love." And he had a few drinks, but the dude kissed me on the cheek, just out of nowhere, and I'm like, "Whoa, bro!" It was like
that's awesome.
Intense.
that's scary and humbling and exciting all at the same time.
Yeah. But other than that, it was cool to have kids look up to you when you're in that position. Going back home, and seeing kids going to coach football camps and kids just look up to you and for advice for what you've done on the field, and it's all about what you've done on the field and off the field. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a great feeling, and it's like those moments are the ones where you're like, man, all this hard work, right? All this hard work I put in to get better, to train, to practice. It's impacting more than just your life.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty cool.
Did you feel a sense of, I've heard some athletes say this, that being said, did you feel a sense of responsibility for, your daily actions as a human being?
Absolutely. I mean, there's different levels of the spotlight being put on you, but yeah, the littlest of things of even just injuring yourself off the field or whatever that can impact the whole team. You just got to think of every little piece of it. But yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. So let's get into the shoes real quick, and then I'll leave you alone about the Razorbacks.
No, I love it.
Actually, no.
It's not often I get to talk about it. Yeah,
Well, let's get into it then. Let's get into it then. Okay, I don't want to be so pushy on the Razorback thing, but I do want to hear a couple of stories. Tell me your best Razorback story real quick, and then I'll ask you my question.
Like best on the field moment? Like,
give me both.
Yeah.
On and off.
No, I think one of my personal favorite moments was we were playing at Auburn, and I hit a career-long field goal, 54 yards.
Oh, nice.
And it felt great, but it felt great for about this long because we unfortunately were down. I think it was like 24-3 at halftime. It was a halftime kick, and then we ended up losing the game, and that was the only points we scored. But it was a big moment for me. But the rest of the team, you could just feel the pain and the heartache, and so it was an interesting feeling to try to like celebrate with yourself, but still support the team.
Yeah.
That's
awesome, though.
I think the bigger moments that like team moments were probably the Razorback fans will remember the Hunter Henry heave against Ole Miss. Dan Skipper tipping the ball and Alex Collins picking it up and running for the first down, and then Brandon Allen punching it in and going for 2 and winning the game. Like that was by far one of the best moments. And then another one that was actually really, really one that sticks in my mind is against LSU when we won the boot. That was one.
Oh yeah, you were a part of that.
Oh yeah, then the fans storming the field, like that moment when the fans stormed the field and you just look to your left, you look to your right, everyone's bumping into you and like you just won a huge game, and you're just celebrating with your friends, your family that's on the field, your teammates. Like it was a pretty awesome moment.
It sounds really intense. So. Let's talk about a couple of things. One, because you've stirred another thought. What's it like? What's it like being in the arena and having that many people's eyes on you? And that being said, too, I mean, was it just second nature? Did it bother you? How'd that feel? And then also, all I can think is because you're not like one of the standard guys that's just constantly doing their thing. You're there for a very purpose-driven.
Yep.
So when you're there, it's kind of like, it's kind of like when somebody's doing a free throw in basketball. Everybody's eyes are on you.
Yep.
And how does that feel?
So, I mean, it didn't bother me.
Did you just go out and do it?
You go out and do your thing. I mean, I tell people, like, honestly, the kicks that I did in practice, messed me up more than in games, just because you have the team hurtled around behind you and they're talking to you. You can hear what they're saying. Your mind is processing, like they're saying your shoes are untied, or they're saying stuff to you, and you have like your mind mentally is hearing all of these things.
Yeah. But
on the field, it's just white noise. It's just fans yelling, like, and so you're kind of in your zone. You're just in your moment, and if you can block out everything else that's going on, the noise and stuff doesn't really bother you, or bothered me at that point.
That's awesome. It seems like a pretty intense. I have, as a musician, played in front of fairly large crowds, but I can't imagine being in an arena type atmosphere with that much commotion and movement. But I guess it's probably there's so many people, like you're saying, it's kind of numbing almost.
Yeah.
You're just very focused on literally what's in front of you.
Well, and people say it's all eyes are on the kicker, right? But it's really like you have the whole operation. You have the snap. So you have the snapper snapping the ball to the holder has to get the ball down, the kicker has to do his job, and then the line has to block. So like it's still a team moment, but fans don't see it that way. And so,
no, it's just you.
Right. And so in practice, that's why, like, you can be an all-star kicker off a tee, but if you can't do it with the snap and the hold and all the timing that goes into it, I mean, they time every kick in practice to make sure that your get-off times are fast enough before the lineman can get to you or they can block the field goal. So it's still a team moment on every kick. And it takes the whole team on the field to make it happen.
Absolutely. So I have to ask a goofy question.
Goofy question. All right.
So is it like Ray Finkel from Ace Ventura said? Is it truly laces out?
Got to. If you hit laces, you don't know if it's going left or right.
You know what I'm talking
Laces
about.
out, yeah.
Laces out.
Laces out, yeah.
Dan Marino. Yeah, a lot of people. What's funny is I had to, for whatever reason, as you popped that in my head, I was thinking the great, the kick hurled around the world and Ace Ventura, and it made me. I don't know why my brain works this way, but I always reflect back on movies of my childhood when some people bring up certain topics, and the minute that you said, everybody's got
to do their job. Yeah, or the Charlie Brown thing. You see they pull the ball and the kicker miss it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move forward. So you said you spent 5 seasons with the Razorbacks?
I did the extra half semester to play my last season. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
you
good
intentionally
extended it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Wasn't ready to get into the workforce. Wasn't ready to start working.
I understand. No one really is. All right, so let's look at Adam's career. So obviously you worked at you said during high school, well not high school, college. You worked at Lowe's. You were the operations office specialist. What is that?
Yeah, no, I was a supply chain major in college, so I wanted to try to get jobs and do things that would set me up for a career down the road. Because I was in school playing football and all this stuff, but you still got to think of the future.
Right.
And so the whole Lowe's thing was like, get your hands dirty. I was unloading trucks at night because that was the only time I could work.
That seems scary considering what you were doing on the field, because that's not necessarily the safest work.
It's not, but it's not that dangerous. It's just unloading the trucks at night.
It's heavy. You could throw your back out, mister. You throw your back out, mister. Or you could drop something on your foot.
You could, but when you don't have a scholarship, you got to.
I understand. You got to do what you got to do
somewhere. So
you got to do what you got to do.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so that was one, and then the operations special. I was working in ICS at JB Hunt on that team, and really just trying to understand transportation and logistics. And
did that help you in your future career?
I think it did, just from a professional aspect, right? Working in an office setting, working with, in a corporation. And I did learn some things there that carried on, but it was stuff that was applied to what I was learning in school at the same time when I was, studying supply chain.
Now, during that time period, you were in college, you did do the replenishment intern. That was internship.
I did. That was my
your first
summer.
Okay, so because obviously you ended up going to Walmart.
I did.
So was that your setup to go into Walmart, or weren't sure? Okay.
Yeah. So I did the JB Hunt internship, and then I did that, and then the next year over the summer I did the Walmart internship, and that's when I really learned about retail, and that's when I started, finding my passion for retail was during that internship, and I realized that, I'm getting a supply chain major, but I learned how Walmart works, what buyers do, what replenishment managers do, what planners do, and I learned where I wanted to be in that matrix. And that's when I kind of went from the replenishment side of the business and tried to move over into merchandising, or the merchant side. Talking with leadership, and then after that internship, I accepted an offer at Walmart.
And that was the merchant talent program.
Yep.
It led into the.
That was a 6-month program.
So how were you so lucky to land into toys?
It's just the luck of the draw. That's how it goes. I mean, I started out in home for 6 months, and then Scott McCall actually moved me and hand selected me for Reed Thornton's team. And so that's kind of how.
That's how you met Reed.
That's how I met Reed. Yeah, and then that's where that story begins.
Awesome. What was your first impression of Reed?
This dude's tall, kind of.
Yeah, he's tall.
Yeah, he's tall. He's 6'6".
Tallest man in retail.
Tallest man in retail. I don't know about that, but he's probably up there.
I haven't met anyone taller in retail. I'll put that one.
That's true. No, but Reed was great. He really took me under his wing from the get-go, from the beginning. And he didn't hold back on anything either, which was great, because after every supplier meeting, or after every meeting we had, he was like, "What were your thoughts on this? Here's my thoughts. Here's why I'm thinking this way versus that way." And as a mentor, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without without the support from Reed, because that's really where I learned a whole lot about retail and about how it all works.
Okay. So, real quick question: what was your favorite toy to work on?
Ooh.
Or
I think-
hand few. I can talk about toys all day long. I love toys.
Toys.
Yeah.
So in toys, I was in the wheeled goods space. So bikes, scooters, skateboards, hoverboards, and the cool story here is I was up through high school. I was a skater.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I loved skateboarding, and
Very nice.
so that was kind of cool to be working on that business. So like my first unofficial buying job was I was a skateboard graphic buyer. Reed gave that was my first responsibilities that Reed gave me, and just getting to do that and then see it show up on the shelves was incredible.
That's awesome.
And I'm thinking probably one of the best.
Skateboard graphics are the coolest.
They are.
They really
the thing
are.
is they
You
can
do
be
so
hit or
much.
miss.
Yeah.
Right. Like you could think it's the coolest thing ever, but customers hate it. And
Did you have any of those?
Oh yeah, not a lot, but I had a couple. The nice thing about that was we refreshed them every we refreshed them pretty often. So that was able to get rid of the bad ones and get new ones in.
What were do you remember what were the ones that tested bad?
So it's hit or miss. Sometimes it's the colors weren't right. Sometimes you were ahead of a trend that wasn't ready for the masses, especially when as a skateboarder coming from that industry, the masses and specialty are different.
Right.
And, you have to learn that a lot of the trends you see in specialty, and this is not just specific to skateboarding, this is in every industry. If you see something in specialty and it's trending, it takes time for that trend to hit the masses. So you had one of those questions earlier about, what's your greatest retail moment? I just remember I was way ahead of the trend when it came to adult electric scooters. Like now you see them everywhere, whatever. But we did an online buy that did not go very well. Pretty big markdown, and I was 2 years too early with that trend because it was right after the big hoverboard boom. When you're watching TikToks or you're watching all of the videos of people falling off hoverboards, and e-mobility is really just taken off in the past, 7 to 10 years.
Was your gut saying this is a thing?
Yeah. My gut was saying, hoverboards are a thing, electric scooters are a thing, adult electric scooters, e-transportation is going to be a thing. And I was just super early to that trend, and, had to work through that inventory.
So let's talk about that for a second. So old school buyers, there's a lot of, and I kind of talked about this with Reed too. And
Reed would consider himself an old school buyer.
I think so. I've said.
He always called me a millennial, and I had to tell him, "You're a millennial too, man."
Look here, mister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell everybody all the time, technically I'm a millennial. I'm right on that line, but I tell everybody I'm an exennial because I'm technically a millennial, but I think like a Gen Xer.
There you go.
But so there's today we're seeing a trend of gut buyers and analytics buyers, right? Oh, yeah. And some are more analytics heavy than I think, and from what we're seeing at Design Signs than ever before.
Absolutely.
And so, is that, how would you describe when you were in that seat?
When I was at Walmart, I would say it's a little bit of both. It's you've got to have, so we called it the art and the science, right? The science being the analytics and the art being the gut feel or chasing trends.
Did you ever have a time when analytics, I didn't ask Reed this, you ever a time when the analytics said yes, but your gut said no?
Probably, yeah. There's definitely times when you could see, absolutely, all the time. Like, think of an item that's, adult electric scooters. Let's just use that as an example. The trends were saying it's growing crazy over year, but the retails were still high. They weren't making sense for customers at Walmart, right? So you have to be in touch with who your customer is. And one of the best advice that I received at Walmart from somebody was, don't lose the customer you got chasing the customer you want. And then it goes back to that specialty versus mass market of like, know who your core customer is and cater to them. Don't lose them trying to chase something that's not your core customer.
So something I've never asked on this just popped in my mind. This is how we do things here.
Let's go.
So, okay, is there opportunities for like Segway products? So, like, are you trying to as a buyer, did you ever see anyone in the buy? I've never asked this question. It's just popped in my head. So if I come off as a dummy, everybody can get over it. But you saw the vision of the electric scooters. Yep. Like, so is there a way that we segue the customer? You say keep the customer you have, but you know this is the future that the customer is going to want. Do you try to find Segway products in between?
You do. You absolutely do. And that's what we thought the hoverboard was. Okay. The hoverboard was the segue between,
we put this there, it'll eventually go there.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Well, and the other thing was, it was when, I'm sure you remember Bird scooters and college campuses.
Yeah.
It was when all of that was going on. And that's kind of what led to my ideas of like, why would customers not buy this themselves instead of paying every time they ride,
Get their own. Gotcha. Okay.
It's just a little early.
So I know that you were involved, you were part of the involvement because Reed discussed this whenever he was here, but you were involved with the transition of really trying to lasso.com.
Absolutely, yeah. That's kind of my claim to fame. So back in 2016, Reed, at the time, I just joined his team and we decided to sign up and do both stores and e-commerce, where back then the e-commerce team was in Hoboken, New Jersey, or in California. And so we signed up to manage both P&Ls. And by doing that, there was a big learning curve, but it was right when I joined the team. So I was already on a learning curve, right? Like I was still so young. The way we kind of describe it is I was learning English and Spanish as a child, because I was a child in my retail career.
That must have had its challenges.
It did, but it actually, in the long run, makes you more fluent in both channels than trying to take one of those old school buyers that you talked about that only knows the store business or only knows e-commerce and trying to make them think differently about both, where I think that I can just think in both channels at the same time. And I was able to use a lot of the translations back and forth, and I helped communicate that within the teams that we worked with at Walmart.
And that obviously sets you up for better success with Spark.
Absolutely. That was when the whole company of Walmart transitioned to omnichannel, transitioned to that model, we kind of had a leg start up on it because we've been doing it for 3-4 years. And when we started Spark, it was like suppliers are now having to go omni because Walmart went omni. And who's helping those suppliers? Nobody. So, well, I say nobody.
It was limited.
It was limited, right? So that was kind of the opportunity we saw when we did start Spark Strategy, was we can help suppliers become more omni and understand how the new omni world is gonna work.
So the way he told us on the Matt Woolley podcast was you were actually the guy that said we should do something outside of Walmart. Is that true? Is that a true statement?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so what triggered that?
I think I've always kind of been an entrepreneur at heart. I've always don't want to say rule breaker, but I always wanted to stretch boundaries and do things differently. And what had happened was we won Team of the Year at Walmart, and I'm sure Reed mentioned that on his podcast. We had one of the best teams. Like, we loved everyone we worked with. We just cranked, right? We were getting, numbers were great. Everything we were doing was right for the business. And then after that, they broke up our team. And so,
why did they break up the team?
They wanted to spread the talent around, I guess.
Hoping that it would cross-pollinate.
Yeah, cross-pollinate, right? So how'd
that feel?
it was tough, right? I'd been working with Reed and
Yeah.
I've been working with the whole team for 4 or 5 years. Like we were all
So there's an executive
closely knit.
So there was a great success, and so word comes from the top that we need to spread that out. Is that basically what happened, or
It was part of the whole reorganization that they did, and so the team's kind
Walmart
of
doing a reorg?
it was needed with the whole omni-channel transition. Like it was
Yeah.
definitely needed, and so that when that came along, I was like, went on and became
Maybe
a
now's the
merchant.
time. Kind
Became
of
a merchant in outdoor living, and was really thinking about how, man, I miss those days working with Reed and the rest of the team. Like we miss working together and like having fun, and like my passion and my job became a job. Where before it was like I was just having fun every day. Like I want to go back to having fun every day. How do I do that? And so
Gotcha.
that was kind of what sparked the idea, and it was just like, well,
Was that a tough transition, real quick, so going from toys to outdoor living? I mean, other than the lack of fun. I mean, because here's the thing: I'm trying to put myself in the people's spot, and we're not here to talk. We're not talking ill will or anything with Walmart or anything like that. It's just we're talking about because people every day are put into these positions.
Yeah,
and seems like if you're number one, because I know you love toys. And then you're on a successful team,
Yep.
Handling toys. And then all of a sudden, you're in outdoor living. Now, outdoor living's cool,
Yeah.
but is it cool as toys?
I think it was one of those things where I was looking for the promotion.
Yeah, I got you.
I was at that point in my career. I'd been an associate merchant for almost 3 years, and I was like,
Time to move.
It's time to take that next step.
I gotcha.
And as an associate merchant, Reed gave me a lot of flexibility and freedom. So I was running my own categories. I was doing what a merchant would be doing, and so I was able to just take that and move over to outdoor living. And the transition wasn't hard. It wasn't bad because
It doesn't sound like it was as exciting, though. Is that what you're getting?
I think people make the difference, and when you have a group of people that have worked together and worked really well together for a long time, and I'm sure you see this with your own team.
Oh yeah.
When you work with people that you enjoy working with, it makes your day a lot better.
A lot
It makes,
easier. Oh, absolutely.
and so just going from having a lot of fun every day. I mean, I had fun in outdoor living too. I'm not saying I didn't, but I was more on an island. I was kind of over my category. It was just me. And
Wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same.
I get
And so I kind of was missing those other days, and that's kind of when.
How long did it take? I mean, how long were you doing outdoor before you're like, you know what?
I was in outdoor for 9 months, 8 months or so, before we started Spark Strategy.
Was it so? How did you approach Reed? Did you
Reed and I we had worked together
Still-
for.
did you stay in
6 years.
contact? Or?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Reed and I were friends at that point. Like
Yeah,
we were
yeah, yeah.
friends outside of work, and Reed and I joke all the time. It was like we spend more time with each other than we do with our wives, and like that's crazy because we work all day, every day together, and so it's just wild. But
Life's funny.
life's funny how things like
Yeah.
that happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this. So we're jumping into the entrepreneurial side.
Okay.
Was it scary?
Oh man, yes. Super scary. I would say like probably one of the scariest decisions, of my life. Really, like I think, going through college and walking onto the football team and all that. I've always known hard work and uphill climbs and all this stuff.
You've done some big things.
Trying to keep doing big things, but I think just being at Walmart, you have that sense of security. Going out on your own, man, it's a tough decision, and it took a lot of thought, got to sleep on it, got to really think about it, and at the end, it's like your support team around you, right? So my wife, my parents, after talking to them, to really make this decision, it was a tough one to make.
Well, you were the guy that had the idea.
Oh, I know. It sounds great until it's like, all right, let's do this.
Till it's go time.
Until it's go time. And it took convincing Reed too, right? Like we sat down and thought about it, planned it. Like what could
Did
this
you have
look
to get
like?
him excited about it?
I did. I mean, he's like, yeah, we could do that. He's always the type of guy to really sleep on things. You tell him a good idea, you think of something, and I'm kind of the idea guy.
That's what he gave you credit for that. He gave you credit. I can't remember if it's on. I can't because I never watched the podcast after I do it.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Okay.
It's just but I think he said it on the podcast. But if not, he said it off the podcast in the same room. But he said that you were kind of like the idea guy, and you're one of these guys that always throwing stuff at the wall, and like 1 out of 10 ideas are
he
really
does
great.
say, he's like, and I tell him like, hey, it's more like 4 out of 10. All right, give me some credit.
Give me that street cred.
Yeah, no, but I am the guy that kind of just like, what about this? What about that? We could do this. We could do that. Or like, let's think about it this way. And then he's the one that says, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. That could work. Let me think about that. And then he sits there and thinks on it. And then we reconvene the next day, and we're like, so what do you think? Like that, let's do it, or like whatever it is. And that's how it is today too.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you need some of that too, because the thing is I've told everybody, not everybody has vision, and people can have different types of vision.
Yep.
But where you'll get in trouble is if all you are is a group of dreamers.
Exactly. Well, and that's where it's good to have that yin and yang, or that balance.
Absolutely.
Of like
have
what's
to-
realistic and what's not. And I would say over the years of working with Reed, I've become a lot more realistic than
Who's the optimist of the two? Probably you.
probably me. Reed's pretty pessimistic when it comes to
pessimistic. I get that too. That's
There's some days it flips though. Some days I'm like pretty
I'm
pessimistic.
gonna burn this.
Yeah, exactly.
Brown.
It just depends on the day.
No, I'm with you. Everybody needs that. Like every business needs that. And there's like if you talk to certain people, and I've been there, as well with previous partnerships that I've been a part of.
Right.
They're not always pretty, or they don't always end pretty. That's just the reality, and that's okay.
That's okay.
But I've had a lot of guys say, "Hey, I'll never do a partnership," and I said, "That's great, but you need to be prepared to do a lot."
Oh,
because
even with a partnership, you still got to do a lot.
I had every business that I've been a part of, because I've had several other little side hustles that I've done and ventures I've been a part of.
Yep.
Couldn't have done it without a good partnership. And sometimes that partnership only goes to a certain point and then goes elsewhere. I've been a part of that too, but it's quite the undertaking. And I think it's also in young entrepreneurs too. That's part of the reason why I started this podcast. Is there's a lot of guys out there that know how to give speeches and sell books, but they don't know a damn thing about running a business,
right,
or being what a true entrepreneur is. And it is different from having a few little successes and then being successful selling books on Amazon and then getting the right type. But being in the grind, starting from scratch, having little funding to do things.
Yeah, talking the talk and walking the walk.
Right.
It's two different things.
You don't know is not in the vocabulary, and so it's a tough thing to do. But you need somebody that is going to be an optimist when you're a pessimist.
Yep.
And whenever the roles switch, there's somebody that's usually, and I can see that in Reed, because I'm kind of the same way at Design Steins. I'm the guy that's like, I'm always thinking, what's the worst case scenario?
Right.
How if we got burned on this?
How bad is it going to be? How bad is it really going to be?
How much ointment are we going to need? And anything better than that's great.
Yep.
Where as Brittany, she's the forever optimist. She's like, no, this is going to be great.
Yeah, you got to have that balance. And I think that goes to another just piece of advice is thinking about people. People make the difference, and you've got to surround yourself with people that balance you out and also make you better, right? And I think it's one of those things where it's like if they say if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. And I think that's so true, because you mentioned about, being on a path with someone and then having to go a different direction. Like, there comes times in everything when it's time to move on to something else. And I think as long as you can keep the right people around you, everything will work itself out. And
100%.
My biggest thing is, like, I love learning and I love being challenged to do new things. And so, like, Spark Strategy, kind of starting that, opened up a new door of a new challenge that I want to do and I want to go after, and getting to do it with people that I enjoy being around and having fun with it's a dream come true, really. And so I think that's one of the things. It's just like trying to just keep those challenges ahead of you and learning new stuff and conquering new challenges along the way is what makes it great, not boring and not, stale.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Spark.
Okay.
What does Spark do? What's your elevator pitch? What does Spark do?
Elevator pitch?
There's more than that. What does Spark not do?
No, that's the thing is we want to be the supplier's go-to and the buyer's go-to partner for anything when it comes to Walmart, anything retail related. We put Spark Strategy in our name because if you don't have a strategy, you're not going to get anywhere. And so there's got to be a strategy to every item that you're pitching, every program that you're pitching, anything that you're doing. If there's no strategy behind it, it's not going to work. And so that's kind of what Reed and I built the company on, is that merchant lens, since we did have that merchant background and we know what buyers have been through, and the rest of our team now know what that other side looks like because they worked at Walmart or they've been in retail and they know their specific roles and what's great about it. And I think knowing that side of the fence and now knowing this side of the fence really just gives you a broader lens to keep that merchant lens and merchant hat on to make sure you're delivering everything that the merchant asks and needs before they ask for it. And that's where
makes it for an easier sell.
Exactly. And that's where I think Spark Strategy, that's where we've positioned ourselves, is like, how do we give the merchant what they're looking for before they're looking for it? Or how do we give them what they need before they need it?
You answer all the questions before the questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've been in meetings where a buyer would have a question and you're like, well, I'm glad you asked. And you click on and the next slide answers their question. That's the best feeling ever because you've prepared and you know what's coming. And I think,
and they react to that. It's like everybody, it's like the less guesswork, it's common sense.
Exactly.
And you guys having the expertise and not being the guys, like you said, being the guys that have gone through these meetings. You know the do's and the don'ts and the what I needs and you keep people, because I will tell you all the time, we've seen it and we've given advice on it too, in the sense of we deal with people at design signs all over, all over the U.S. and we've had people come to us with a request. Now it's obvious on the creative or packaging or brand side of things, and then you get into conversations with them, and then they're like, So I have a friend that's a buyer, and they're fixing to make the trip to Northwest Arkansas, and I'm like, you have a meeting, right?
Yep.
You have a meeting. And then you start asking questions like, well, what are you going to present? And I'll never forget one of the worst ones was, I was like, and it's not being mean, you just don't know what you don't know.
You don't.
And that's where y'all's expertise comes in, is because you're the anticipation, what's going to take place.
Well, I think the cool thing is by looking at it through the merchant lens that we do, we're not gonna let you walk in there and not be successful.
Yeah.
We're gonna
You need to have a
trim
loaded
back
gun.
everything. Yeah, we're gonna trim back everything that shouldn't be there. We're gonna keep what should be there.
The 80-page PowerPoint.
As a buyer, getting into a meeting that you set for 30 minutes or is for an hour, and seeing that there's 100 slides is like the most devastating. Like, you're like, I have to sit through this.
Oh yeah. Or some of the just totally ill prepared. Like the guy, one of the worst ones we ever came across was they needed some help with their brand because they just didn't have any. They had a big meeting set up, and it was like 2 weeks until the meeting, and all they had was they had a product, and the product was cool.
Product was good, yeah.
Yeah, but all they had was a CAD of what the packaging, literally a CAD, like a line drawing of what the packaging that would hold it would look like. And they didn't know the mod. They didn't really have, they had some price points on, what they could do, but they didn't really have a plan for how, didn't have an understanding of their competition.
So you have to know your competitors. You have to know what the buyers are doing today, like what the module looks like today. And not only that, you have to know what's happening in the market too. You got to not just walk a Walmart modular. You got to walk Target or the Best Buy or whoever the competitor is. Like you have to know what's going on in that industry. And I think that's what's been cool on this side of the fence is we get to work on a lot of different categories, and we get to explore new categories with a clean lens versus when I was in toys, it's like I was doing the same category for 4 years. It's like you kind of become the expert in that category, which is a good thing.
It's a sweet spot.
It's a sweet spot. But then it's like it's also exciting to learn new things about other categories and other products and other brands. And this business that we've built has been so nice to just see and meet. And like I said earlier, people make the difference. And the people that we work with, like working with you, and like you really get to see people from all walks of life. You get to see, what they've done and their story and hear their story. And it's really cool to see the amount of people, businesses, products, all of that come through Bentonville is just mind blowing when you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. Are you a product junkie?
Yes.
Me too.
Yes.
I'm
actually a packaging junkie too.
Me too.
That's why we give you a hard time sometimes. But nine times out of 10, you guys are on point.
Yeah.
And then we're like,
we don't have a 100% success rate with first out of the hat. We do have a pretty good success rate, but there's those times where like, that's. But
that's part of no one's perfect. No one's perfect. And it can always be updated. And then and that's part of the collaboration too.
Yeah.
Collaboration is such a big thing.
Oh, 100%. I think it's something ingrained in kids of the 80s and 90s that truly understand, the love of products, on-shelf products. There's just nothing like something that catches your eye. You kind of like, whoa, and that feeling of, I have to have this.
Yep.
But the funny thing is now, and I'm sure it's the same way with you, you see it from both sides of it, because where you have your consumer brain, but then you also have...
Oh, yeah. Walking a store in retail, like, after doing what I've done for the past 8-9 years is like night and day. People don't, like, you have to put your customer hat on, or you have to put your retail, like, hat on
you almost have to laugh at the naivety of people, and it's not making fun. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
And so, but yeah, it's really funny when I talk to other people about, some of the product innovations that we've dealt with. I don't get off into specifics, obviously, NDA based, but I was like, oh man, there's this cool thing, and they don't get it because they don't see the big picture. They're just the consumer side of things.
Well, that's the thing with packaging, though. It's like it's the consumer side of things, but now that we're in the digital age, everyone's like, you have to have great content. You have to have great content online. You have to have great content, and then people don't even think about their package. It's like your packaging on the shelf is the only content you have in store.
Yeah, that's it. It's your billboard.
It's your
so
billboard.
You better make the best of it. Well, I can't think of a better spot to end this.
Yep.
Our time has come, Adam.
Already?
I
was having just now getting started.
I was just getting warmed up.
Yeah. Just having fun.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll do it again.
Whenever. You should have Reed and I come on.
I don't know. That sounds dangerous.
Sounds like a lot, huh?
It does. We got to take this. Let's slow and steady. Thanks, man.
That's awesome. Thank you.